Now I reckon the stag handstand could be one of the easiest handstand positions to hold. So today I'm going to cover how to get into the position, how to start balancing it, and the reasons why it could be the easiest position to hold. When most people think about the freestand handstand, they try and get into this position. Now you can tell by my voice that this is actually really hard to hold in a straight line. It's taking lots and lots of energy, mobility-wise, to keep the body as one segment, to keep the tail tucked under, to keep the shoulders open, to keep the body as one. If we also look at something else extreme, like the tuck handstand. So when we go into the tuck handstand, we're bringing the body down, so we're making the body shorter, but there's such a flexibility demand, especially if you're tight in the upper back and hips. So that's a smaller position, but it's way harder to hold because the demand on flexibility is there again. So we have the straight position that's really hard to hold because of flexibility. We have the tuck that's really hard to hold because of flexibility. So both great positions that I think you should be working as a priority, but definitely not the easiest position to catch. Now if we just relax the handstand position, most people will relax into a closed shoulder position and a banana handstand. So something like this. So this will be easier for most people to hold, but the trouble is with this one, it will start to collapse in some way. So it can be really heavy on the back, or I can start to collapse through the arms and shoulders towards the floor. So basically what happens, you start to collapse down and down and down, and you'll fall in the direction where you're leaning the most. But what the stag position does, it takes away the flexibility demand, because I can just bring one leg down as much as I need to this side. I can bring the other leg down as much as I need to this side. I can be a little bit looser, but it brings things into the midline without there being a flexibility demand. And because you have something on each side of the body, it makes it easier to balance because you're equaling out what's the front and the back of the handstand. Now, if you're at the level where you're catching freestanding handstands, you'll probably find now that you can take one leg over. So I can go into a split position. Now the split is cool as well because we have that same thing where we have one leg on one side and one leg on the other side. But if we're trying to get the split as deep as possible and straighten the legs, we run into that flexibility demand again. So exactly the same thing, just bend the knees, and you're back into that position where you have equal weight on either side of the body, but you're taking away the flexibility demand. So one way of getting into it would be to go into it like your normal split handstand, where you take one leg a little bit too far, but just relax the legs. So you pull in towards the midline, and I can make this quite loose, but I'm trying to bring the front leg in to the midline. I'm trying to bring the back leg into the midline just by collapsing the back knee. So if you're freestanding, if you have the ability to kick up and catch sometimes, I would play around with that freestanding. It's much easier to play around with the stag handstand freestanding than it is against the wall. Now the reason why it's challenging against the wall is because it's hard to know what to do with this leg. How do I get this foot below the knee? So I could just work away like I normally do in the split handstand. So I can go nice and close to start with, loose legs, but try and get the hands, shoulders and hips stacked, and then slowly move the hands further and further away. So I create some space between my torso and the wall. Now I just want just enough space now where I can bring this leg down, and then the back leg I can tuck the foot over. So I want to be able to turn the foot over. Now that feels like it's now too far away from the wall, so I need to go back a little bit closer. And then I can bring this foot down. Yeah, that's better now. So I can easily get this foot over now. I can push this toe against the wall, try and find balance. So again, trying to get the balance point where the shoulder is on top of the hands and the hip is on top of the shoulders. And then now I'm trying to make this foot very, very light, trying to bring in towards the midline. So equal in each side. And I can keep like, not bouncing off the wall, just pull off the wall and try and find the balance point. Try not to push. If you push off the wall, you'll tend to push yourself forwards or backwards. So it's really just playing around with the distance you are away from the wall with your hands, where you can tuck that foot over and just rest it against the wall. And you can bring this one in or away just to feel like you're balanced. Now, whether you're against the wall or away from the wall, once you have your balance and you can start to pull that foot away, I would play with swapping sides. So this would be my dominant side. I would kick up this way. That feels okay. Now what I'm going to do is just try and keep the knees the same. So whatever angle the knees are at, then I'm just going to swap legs. This one doesn't feel as nice. We go back to that side. So you're going to have one side a bit like the split that will feel nice, and the other side that doesn't feel so nice. So just see if you can go between them and hold some sort of control. Now you could play around with going into things like tuck and then coming back out, you could open into straddle, you could go diamond and back into it. You could do lots of different shape changes, but obviously that's working to more advanced positions. If you're working one arm handstands, you could play with that stag position, find a relaxed position, make your weight transfer, and then find your one arm there. But obviously again, that's going towards more advanced movements. I more wanted this video to be around an introduction to playing with the stag and why for some of you it might be the easiest position to hold or show some control. Now I wouldn't make the stag a priority. I would leave that to the straight, the tuck and the straddle, but I would definitely add it to your training or at least your play. Especially if you're trying to catch for the first time, you might find that it allows you to feel a little bit safer. It might create a slightly bigger balance window and takes away that demand for flexibility. Let me know down in the comments if you've tried stag, if you already use it in your handstand practice, and if you find it easier to balance. Normal deal, thumbs up and subscribe would be appreciated, and I'll speak to you next time. Thanks guys.